at it.
Yo, what's poppin', all my peeps? It is I, your host with the most, Renaissance man who always thinks he can, and champion of the peeps, Patty Pitts, back in the yard of streams for another edition of the Raw Rewind, presented by Pitts and Sara's Wrestling Show, where we take no nights off, and you can't have Pitts and Sara's Wrestling Show without the best of the West you can't forget about. Sarah Marshall, what's poppin', girl?
Hey, yo.
Look at Bay. God. You know,
He's looking good there. He is
Yeah,
looking good there.
I would have been that big old rat, you know?
I can just picture you screaming right at ringside. Not like the cage, like you're going over the cage, the barricade right there, and just screaming.
I'd be waiting in the back, just being like, I'm such a rat.
Notice me.
Give me some cheese, baby.
What's
Anyway.
poppin', everybody? How we doing, Sarah, on this fine Tuesday night, afternoon, where you are? You know,
We are swell. You know? Swell. That's what I would say. Swell. I'm still like really happy with Raw last night. It was great
Yeah.
show.
Yeah, you were the last person I talked to before going to bed.
I know. I was legitimately shocked, and I was like, oh my God. Because my mom's on vacation, like I told you, I have to watch her dog, so I had no one to talk to. I was by myself, and I was like, okay, Pat might be sleeping, like I don't know. So I was like, I need to just call him. If he doesn't answer, that's fine. But I didn't want to text you because I was like, okay, well, if he's sleepy or sleeping, he wasn't going to answer me. And I need to talk about what just happened because I was shook. I did not see that happening. And that's why I had to call you, because I was like, what is going on?
I felt so bad in the sense that I shared your excitement level, but it was all in my head. It was like the Hangover, where the Zach Galifianakis meme of the math equations and whatnot. That was coming to my head about everything that's building up for eventually Survivor Series, War Games, and even Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, and it was everything that you could ask for if you are an intelligent wrestling fan. That's kind of the best way I can put it.
Well, I feel like also if you're enjoying the Triple H era, it feels like it's in full swing right now. So, it's just
absolutely
it was exciting.
Swing.
It was exciting.
But that's the thing. Like, I mean, I'll allude to now. Well, I was going to talk about it, but like the way they could have done that in any era and have it they could have done that so vanilla. And just like, oh, they lose, and they're back, and they're two-time champs, and then we're getting a rematch because But no, like they did it in a very intelligent way where if you followed the show and if you have been following Raw and SmackDown with a keener eye, with paying attention to the little details, you appreciate the end result a lot more. And that's why I like it, where in that Vince McMahon era, it got very lazy. It got very lazy in the sense that they just slapped you over the head with it. Sarah has disconnected. I don't know what happened, but that's what the champ does. The show keeps rolling. So I'll keep. Well, Bernard's here. What's poppin', Bernard? How we doing? Good to see you. Oh, and yeah, both our teams are doing well, and neither is Sarah's service apparently.
No, that was my cat. She turned off my computer. She was rubbing her face on the side of my laptop, and she pressed the power button. So
that's incredible. God damn it, Rums.
I know.
She's so she's such a heel. She's the heel of this show.
She's the heel that I don't like, though. You know, like normally I like them, but she's the one that like actually pisses me off.
She gets that dirty Dom reaction in the Marshall
Yeah.
household.
Yep. Yep.
Oh yeah.
Should we just jump in?
Oh yeah, we got it. I've
Okay.
been stalling. So.
That's fine. Okay, so Sami Zayn opens the show, which is a little different, I guess, but basically he's talking about Kevin Owens, as we saw on SmackDown, was traded to SmackDown courtesy of Nick Aldis, because we didn't get to talk about that, but that was exciting.
Awesome.
Um,
Didn't know he's Mickey James's husband.
how did you not know that?
Okay. I hand up.
Okay.
Champ. That's on me. The
All
champ's
right.
gonna
I'm like,
take
how
fault for
did
that.
you not know?
There's a lot of couples in wrestling. It's tough to
Yes.
follow.
So anyway, so Sami comes out and he's just talking about how it's difficult to be on Raw without his brother, without his buddy KO, and talking about how they have been struggling for quite a while in their fights with Judgment Day. And now he's seeing that they're getting another title shot and he feels like it should be him and Kevin, but that cannot happen. Then he goes on and talks about how great he thinks he is and that he believes that he is a world heavyweight championship level superstar and that the last year of his life has been crazy, but it has been the best of his entire career and life, whatever. And then Judgment Day is like, ha 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 ha, we don't care. And they say that they're going to get the titles back tonight, which obviously is like a low blow kind of to Sami because he's mad that they lost them in the first place. And they say that usually they try to recruit the lonely superstars like Sami, but instead their plan is to get rid of him permanently. And that is when they surround the ring. They look like they're about to pounce, and then Jay comes running out with a chair, and so Judgment Day backs off. But then I like the the little tension kind of there, which we'll get to when they talk, but the tension between Sami and Jay, because we talked about how if this was something that happened, because I don't remember if we floated this idea or somebody else did, I don't remember, but we were saying that we were going to want somebody to be like mad about it happening. So Sammy's going to be pissed about Kevin, and he's going to know that, oh, it's because Jay's on Raw. He could be mad at Jay. He could be mad at Cody. So I did like that, like, initial tension there.
I did too, and I like the fact that I really am enjoying the beginning. We'll say the genesis of the Sami Zayn to becoming world champion story. And this was a great way to do it. It really felt like, crazy as it seems, it really felt like a season premiere of a show. It really did. You're starting off with Sami Zayn really just alone,
Yeah.
and everyone can relate to the fact that their best friend or brother, sister, goes off and does their own thing. And at this point, I would say KO is more established. He's been a world champion, so he'll be fine on SmackDown and do his thing. But Sammy hasn't. He hasn't got that time in the spotlight, and he's had a taste of it. He's been inches away, but just hasn't capitalized. And there's been a lot of question marks with what are they doing with KO and Sammy, and you thought that they were going to face DIY, or they were going to go after tag titles, but now you have Sammy all on his own. And I really enjoy this because you need Sammy to feel like this. And it's also another side story branching off of the bloodline story. And this is why I really love the product right now, is because the bloodline story is connected with everything. It's connected with everyone. Well, I mean, Drew McIntyre is still talking about Clash of the Castle. Sami Zayn and Jay, he's like, listen, this pisses me off that you're here and it's not Kevin, but I love you, man. But he's my brother. And it's that real relatable story that you're on your own and you have to make something of yourself and stand up on your own 2 feet. We've seen Sami Zayn climb into becoming NXT champion, Intercontinental champion, but he hasn't been a world champion. And with
Mhm.
this Triple H era, we need guys like that to evolve into that. This is the beginning of that, and the way they are doing it is so well done. And we've talked about how they are focusing on one person being a focal point of an entire episode, and it really felt like this was the start of Sami Zayn being the focal point not only of this episode but more to come.
I think he's gonna be. I I feel like we kind of might have gotten the first inkling that Drew McIntyre might actually win at Crown Jewel,
Oh, I got
because
that. Yeah.
then we had the drama with him and Sammy backstage, which that would make sense because obviously Drew needs to be a heel for Sammy to go after the world heavyweight title, so it wouldn't make sense for him to go after Seth. So it just feels like there's a lot there that they can go with, which we're gonna.
So
I mean,
much.
there's so many, like the end especially, which we'll talk about. But because of that tension from Sammy in the ring, Jay does approach him backstage to just kind of be like, hey, what's going on? Like, is everything okay? And Sammy initially is just like, yeah, but then he finally reveals the truth and it's like, no, my brother is gone because of you. Like, had you not come to Raw, then Kevin would still be here. He wouldn't have been traded. He says that he's grateful that Jay is there, and that he's turned a new leaf, I guess. But he said,
Mm-hmm.
it's nice that you have my back, but it should have been Kevin. Jay seems kind of offended and says, well, like, I love you. I still have your back. And he walks away. Sammy then runs after him and apologizes. So it
I love
seems like
that.
everything
I
is all
love.
good and dandy with them. But I still feel like, it's possible something might brew in the future, like,
Oh yeah. Oh,
which I love.
something is.
I would be interested to see something like that too, because we haven't seen them have issues that didn't involve the bloodline. So Sammy
Yes.
versus Jay at some point would be pretty cool, because it would have literally nothing to do with the bloodline. It would be almost like Jay versus the bloodline, but like the Sammy Kevin bloodline. You know what I mean? Like, not the
Oh yeah.
same, but it's like a family aspect just on the opposite side. So
It's brilliant. I love that, and I really love the fact that I go back and do this. I'll say mini research in rewatching old episodes, old episodes from the Attitude Era, and you learn a lot about Triple H's booking style
mhm,
and what he is doing with creative when watching it. There's a lot of similarities from when he was in the heyday, when he was champion and whatnot, and how it's translating over. The continuity throughout episodes and having you know main character, protagonist, antagonist to start. You get your side characters for 1, 2, maybe 3 segments. Boom, you're backstage with something
mhm.
there, and it's the main people of the show. And that was something that was lost for a while.
And we had talked about how that was a problem because, they would try to start a storyline or something, and then it would abruptly end like 2 weeks later. And it was like only they had, 2 matches or something. And then all of a sudden we're like moving on, or so and so is mad at this person, but we never saw them even interact or anything. Like, it was just weird. Like, Vince just completely got rid of it, which is ironic because for a while, a lot of Raw and SmackDown was backstage segments. He cut so much time from actual matches. It's almost
Mhm.
weird that he didn't utilize more like thoughtful segments backstage. It was just a bunch of fluff and like pointless stuff and just like stuff that didn't make any sense. So it's kind of weird when you think about it in that aspect, but it is great because, I mean, we'll talk about it, but even with Seth and Drew, they used something that happened backstage to
Oh,
further fuel their feud.
it
And it's
was
like,
awesome.
we always say that, like during now that Triple H is in charge, you have to pay attention to everything. And I think we learned that a lot when it was when they were hyping Bray's return. You know,
Oh
you were
yeah.
having to like look in the back to see like, oh wait, like, and now they're still doing that, but it doesn't have like a singular purpose. It's not like, oh, there's something going on because Bray's coming back. It's like, no, there's some hidden stuff here, which is exciting. It makes you not want to go take a bathroom break or go get food until it actually is the commercial, you know?
Oh yeah. No, you can't. You can't. It's really like watching an HBO or one of those A-level shows. I say I have watching Westworld. You cannot look at your phone for a second
Mm-hmm.
because you missed a detail. It's the
Yeah.
same thing here because if you looked at your phone for a second, you probably would have missed what happened. I'm not gonna say it right now, but what happened between Drew McIntyre and a certain somebody because you're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh well, it's Ricochet and Adam Pierce, but it's like
Yeah. Is it
widen your
though?
lens, widen
Yeah.
your lens.
Yeah. So then we see Ricochet versus Shinsuke Nakamura in a Falls Count Anywhere match, and I
This
would
was
say this match
awesome.
more than delivered. You know,
Oh,
this
more.
it's I'm excited about it too because I think when there's this type of stipulation on just like a Raw or SmackDown, it tends to under deliver, I would say. It's usually like not that great because, you know, it's just a Raw or SmackDown. It's not a pay-per-view. They don't have as much time as they do when it's like, you know, a 3-4 hour pay-per-view where there's only like literally matches happening, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um so I was really happy with this and I was happy that they really exploited the stipulation because we've seen a couple matches where there was a stipulation like, oh, you know, extreme rules or like no disqualification, and they're like doing nothing with it.
You see one
So
chair shot to the back, and that's it.
yeah, and so I was really happy that this was literally all over the place. The front, like in the ring, outside the ring, in gorilla, in the stands, on top of
Stand
like,
back, stand
yeah.
back, Hurricane. There's a Ricochet coming through. That was an
So
all-time line. All-time line.
so I was really excited um about that because, you know, I wasn't expecting that, and I was happy that they finally did the right thing and had Shinsuke win because I was really going to be disappointed. Like, I do love me some Ricochet, but Shinsuke Nakamura needed a win, especially after losing to Seth. He needed that.
Oh
He
yeah,
needed that.
that wins. It doesn't matter if Ricochet loses that match. You still think the same Ricochet. It's Ricochet. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's just trying
Nakamura
to
needs
hammer
to win.
yeah, trying to hammer home this like new identity of Shinsuke Nakamura being like more violent and whatever. Like, he had to win a match with this stipulation, as like I said, especially because we so quickly moved on from the match with Rollins at Fastlane.
It's an interesting comment from Micah. Ricochet, I mean, this last part, but Ricochet versus Nakamura has happened 4 times in the matches before last night ended non-finish. Last night, Ricochet was a highlight of the night, and I hope it leads to a heel turn. Interesting. I don't know how I'd feel as Ricochet as a heel. I think it just more hammers home the fact that Nakamura is a very evil heel.
I mean, I don't, it's not that I want to say that I don't think that he's capable of being a heel. I just don't know how well it would work because I feel like he would be the type that would have to be more like more of a bad guy with his actions than his words because we know that Ricochet's not good on the mic. So and that's, you know, it's fine. It's like I always say, Rey Mysterio has never been good on the mic either, but it didn't matter really because he blew you away in the ring, and that's very similar to how Ricochet is. So I'm not like shitting on him for that. But I feel like in today's day and age, to be like a really hardcore heel, you kind of need to be able to have a good presentation with your voice.
Oh, you need
And
to, yeah, you need to be, you need to have a way with your words.
yeah,
Absolutely.
so I just don't know if that would work necessarily, but I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if they do try to do something different with him. Like, maybe he's just tired of kind of like what we said with like Theory or something, where he's just tired of having these opportunities taken away from him. And so he just kind of like gets angry and like takes it out on people, something like that.
Takes
But,
into his own hands, yeah. Yeah, I could
and
see
that's
that.
not super long term, you know?
And I didn't know this, and I wish I watched a bit more of him when he was in Lucha Underground.
Mhm.
because Lucha Underground has a lot of stars now in both promotions. The ones that come to mind are obviously Ricochet, Rey Mysterio was there for a little bit, Brian Cage, and then even Swerve Strickland. Didn't
Mhm.
know that, and those guys showed their range there where I want to see that with Ricochet, but I just don't. I would rather see that as an ultimate babyface
Yeah.
than a heel. There's too many people right now, especially on Raw, that would be heel guys where you do need that baby face to save the crowd,
Mhm.
and be a connector with the crowd.
I think the problem with him right now is I feel like they don't really have plans for him. You know, he's like the mid card guy that they make sure he's on TV basically every single week, and he's going to put on one hell of a match, but they don't really do anything with him. It's almost like since he lost the Intercontinental title to Gunther, they just haven't really had much to do with him. Like even after
Yeah.
the Logan Paul match, like nothing has come of it, and we're already moving on from that, despite the fact that he cheated to win. You know, it's like there's just they do something and then they just quickly move on. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like I feel bad for him in that aspect. Like maybe he could be a prime candidate to go back down to NXT and get revamped, kind of like Baron Corbin. But I don't think that he deserves it in the same way that Baron Corbin did, you know? So that's why it's like that
Yeah.
doesn't sound like a good idea because there's nothing wrong with him. They just don't know what to do with him.
They don't know in the sense that there's no elevating him right now to a title picture. There's no, we'll say, demoting him
Mhm.
into a jobber status because you can't. So you're in
Yeah.
that weird purgatory area, which it's not the worst place to be because
Mhm.
you're still on TV. You're putting on great matches. You're getting FaceTime with the crowd, even if you're not on TV. You're still on, doing matches. So you're
Yeah.
fine there. The only issue is if he does want to get to that point where, you're winning titles, it's going to be a little bit because you have dominant champions. Gunther's not going to lose his title in the near future unless it's Gable. They're really pushing Gable. And what did we say? Have him face guys and just go on some real, a real, what am I like? Oh, why am I
Roadblock.
no, like a real dominant streak. The
Oh,
words like until you get to that next stage, and Ricochet just doesn't fall into that category.
yeah. I agree.
So
Um let's move on to Piper Niven versus Natalia. But again, before we got into that match, we saw Chelsea and Piper confront.
Chelsea Green.
They confronted Tegan, Kaden, Katana, and Nikki Cross was in the background doing whatever. And this was on their way to the ring. So Chelsea is still talking that ish, which we love. And this was just a quick match. It got the point across that Piper is not someone that you mess with.
She ain't
And
the
after
lady to mess with. Whoop.
they attack Natalia afterwards, which prompts Tegan to come out to save her. And my initial thought was I am all for them showcasing the women's tag team titles and doing more with them, but are we really going to see Natty with a like 12th tag team partner? Is that really what we're doing here?
I just, I love Natalia because she's really good and really a pioneer of the women's division. Not her time. Like you got kind of slip into a managerial role. Okay.
I'm thinking
Start
it's more
doing the
about
elevating.
I think it's more so about doing that for Tegan. That's what I think
Yeah.
is the whole point. But it's still just like, does it have to be Natty? But I think it's because, you know, in the eyes of the fans, Natalia is established and she's been around forever and she would be more of a mentor to somebody like Tegan. But yeah, it's like it's kind of like a double-edged sword, I feel like, you know, like it's
That's a
great
good way
that
to
they're
put it.
going to have the women's tag titles on and they're going to have more competition for in the division, but it's just like it's the same recycled people with different tag team partners, and so that's the part that's just kind of like, are we serious right now? that's just disappointing.
I agree. Because I believe Tegan Knox can stand on her own. She doesn't
Mm-hmm.
need that natty rub, as we'll say. But
It's for the fans, though. That's what it
it
is.
is for the fans, and as much as we're not the biggest Natalia fans ever, she does have a lot of young girl fans because she's that
Mm-hmm.
good and was a pioneer. So if you're gonna do it that way, and for them put her with Tegan so that
Mm-hmm.
they're like, oh my gosh, that Natty's with Tegan, so I should like Tegan. If that's your plan, fine, I'm for it. Okay,
Yeah.
I understand that vision,
Mm-hmm.
but for the wrestling fans like you and I, who are, we'll say, more advanced, we don't need to see that. I want to see
Yeah.
Tegan Knox on her own cut promos. I want to see her go toe to toe on, not only just in the ring, but on the mic with people like Becky Lynch, um, Chelsea Green, because that interaction was awesome last
It
night.
was, yeah.
And also, if you're going to pair her with anybody, give her allies in the after party. Give her another weird ally in Nikki Cross, because you saw her perched up there.
Yeah,
Nikki
I know.
Cross is perched up there. That was awesome.
And it's like,
So
what's going on there?
apparently she's like crushing it on main event. Sean Ross Sapp was
Mm.
tweeting out that he watches main event, which good for you, man. If I wasn't swimming with the fishes, we'd be watching main event and all those minor type shows. But any way to strength in numbers is a good way to sum it up. Is strength in numbers, and with the amount of women being highlighted
Mm-hmm.
on TV right now, it's the best sign possible
Yeah.
for them. So,
Well, I think we're gonna see. Yeah, we'll see how it pans out.
mhm.
Um, then we see Seth Rollins. He comes to the ring again to talk again.
This is very
And
attitude era-esque. This is
yeah,
very attitude era-esque, which I love.
and this is the thing. Before we even get into what his conversation was, because I didn't care what he had to say, honestly. I cared once Drew came out, but as far as what Seth was saying, I just didn't care. And it's sad because I'm a big Seth Rollins fan. But to me, my immediate reaction was get the title off of him. Take the title off of Seth, because and I had people being like, "Are you serious, Sarah?" Like, "Oh my gosh." And I'm like, "Yeah, because this is like 6 weeks in a row that he's coming out to get people to sing the song so that people are happy, because not only are they seeing the champion, but it's Seth Rollins." But it's like, this is so dumb at this point. This isn't any better than Roman not being around. It's like, okay, cool, you're there, but you're saying the same stuff every single week. You're not wrestling, probably because you are injured.
Mm.
And that's why I'm like, that's one reason on top of others that I really hope that they take the title off of him at Crown Jewel, because this is just getting to a point where I'm getting frustrated and irritated that he's still champion. And that's not how we're supposed to feel. The whole point of the world heavyweight title being reintroduced was so that we didn't feel that way because Roman was gone. But now it's like, you're not any better at all.
It's he's not better, but you needed him to be the first champion in the sense that
Oh yeah.
to
Yeah.
elevate that, and at this point, it feels like the job is done. The job is
Yes.
done. He legitimized it. It's absolutely a workhorse heavyweight champion, whatever. Now you need a new guy up. Who is the
Yeah.
next man up to carry the lineage legacy of that new title? Nakamura, I would say more wanted it because we wanted Nakamura to get that recognition,
Yeah.
to be a champion. As it came out, it seems like he just wants to be in the mix,
Yeah, well, I
and he
haven't
doesn't.
verified that,
I
but
haven't verified, but it's out there.
it's
If that's the case,
yeah, an
whatever.
alleged thing.
It's
Yeah.
alleged. Okay, it's
Yeah.
alleged, which is fine. Um, Drew is not that guy. Drew is not a Nakamura. Drew wants that title, and Drew can carry it. And
Mhm.
the fact that Drew McIntyre was champion during probably the worst time to be champion in wrestling history,
Well, and he
and
says
did a
that basically
job.
too. Yeah.
And what?
He basically says that
Oh,
too.
he absolutely says
Yeah.
it, and well, just he absolutely should feel like that.
Yeah.
And it's time for him to it's time to reward him for doing that. And the best way to do that is putting this title on him. Be this no nonsense, I handle my business. If it's not
Yeah.
my business, I'm not a part of it. That's what a champion does.
Yeah.
It,
And so
it
that
makes
was,
sense.
I was already frustrated seeing that he wasn't dressed. And I was like, okay, we already know what the main event is. We already know that Gunther's match is coming. So, like, it was clear that he would not be wrestling. And so then when he started talking, then it just became more frustrating to me because why are we still talking about the Judgment Day attacking you 2-3 weeks ago? Why are we still talking about this? And why are you still mad at Drew McIntyre about it? I'm like, you couldn't have come up with something else for him to say. Instead, you're still harping on something that you already spoke about and already talked to Drew directly about. To me, it was just like, come on. Like,
Well,
but
it alludes. Yeah, you're getting to
well,
the.
yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it,
yeah. I
it
know where you're
serves a
getting
purpose of at eventually because Drew does come out, but I'm just saying, like, I want more from the champion than like the same thing every single week. But Drew does come out and he reiterates once again that he wants Rollins at 100%. And so when it comes to things like the Judgment Day attacking him, besides not getting involved in anyone else's business, he said, I'm not going to babysit you. Like, he's not going to sit there and make sure he's at 100%. That's not his job. That's Seth's job.
Mhm.
And then Rollin brings up, like I said earlier, that image of McIntyre and Rhea speaking backstage and kind of trying to allude to something is going on between McIntyre and the Judgment Day. And Drew says, Rhea actually came up to me, but what we talked about is none of your business, which I was like, I am here for this because come on. In typical wrestling, he would have just been like, yeah, and she was trying to get me to do this. It's like, no, keep that close to the chest,
Keep
baby.
that. You don't show your cards. You
Yeah.
don't show your cards.
So Seth didn't really, could really like that
He
necessarily,
didn't like
but
that
he did
answer,
say,
Sarah. You didn't
yeah,
like that answer.
but he does say, Drew, you have had a lot of success and failure in recent years, but enlisting the Judgment Day, aligning yourself with them is a mistake. And, they keep going, blah, blah, blah. Drew reminds him, the last time that we competed for a championship, I beat your ass. And then he goes on to saying exactly what he should be saying, that he won the title against Brock Lesnar and then carried the company on his back during the pandemic, performing in front of nobody. And it was his first ever world title run ever in WWE. So it was huge for him. And so he does talk about their match, and I loved this line when he said, you need to think long and hard about how you're going to reinvent yourself for the 53rd time after I beat you for that title. And I was like, King.
That was a good callback.
King.
That's where it's getting good. It's getting
So I am very excited about this. I think this is one of the matches that I'm looking forward to the most, probably, other than, Crown Jewel is going to be a banger, dude, because then we have LA Knight versus Roman also.
Oh.
We have the Fatal 5-Way, which we'll get into. Like, this is going to be a banger, but I'm very excited about how this,
After banger.
I'm very excited about how this rivalry is coming together because the way they introduced it was very casual. McIntyre just came out and was like, I'm next. Like, I'd like to fight you next. Ha ha ha. But I want you at 100%. So it's Crown Jewel, and that was it at first. And then you're like, okay, cool. Like, we need Drew in the title picture. So that's great. But I like how it's progressed since then and there's more substance to it. And you can just see all of these glimpses of Drew becoming the Scottish psychopath. And I am so excited.
It really is incredible. We need this dark side of Drew McIntyre.
Yes.
That's where he elevated himself.
Which it's crazy to think. It's crazy to think about these things because of where they were originally. Like, thinking about Drew McIntyre being in this position when he was the chosen one of Vince McMahon, or when he was 3M in 3MB, never would have predicted that this would be where he was, however many years later. It's just incredible to see that transformation, and it's exciting because he deserves it. He's put
He
in a
can
lot
do
of
it.
work to get to that point.
He has, and it's someone that you need to have in the title picture, and that you can rely on week in and week out
Mm-hmm.
to do a job, not only do a job, but do it well.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have a lot of guys that you can rely on to do that well, and he's really turned into that for sure.
And he has a lot of options to feud with, if he wins anyway. I'm just under the assumption that he's going to win, and I
Have
hope that
to.
I'm not wrong, because I
Have
thought that about Nakamura and I thought that about Finn Balor. So I hope, given what we're seeing from Rollins, it seems like all signs are pointing to he's losing. So if we're under that assumption, we know that he can face Rollins, obviously, in a rematch or something. We could see him face Jay because he's got issues with Jay. We could see him face Cody because he's mad at Cody for bringing Jay and aligning himself. He could face Sammy because, Sammy keeps trying to convince him to be fine with Jay. And those are just like the main ones that we just saw from this episode of Raw that he could feud with. Who knows who else? But it's like, that I think is a good idea as well, because if you think about it with Rollins, who's after Drew? It's like there's not a whole lot of people that he could go against. So I feel like that's another sign that should be like, okay, maybe it's time we move on. He's had it for 5 months. Like, it's been a good run, but now it's time to change it.
Agreed.
And like I said, we see McIntyre confront Sammy about Jay. And Drew just goes into reminding him like all the stuff that the bloodline put him through, which included Jay Uso, and just doesn't understand how Sammy can be so like happy go lucky, like jolly, forgiving guy. And I'm like, Drew, you are me. Drew is me. The second that someone crosses me, I'm not like gonna be like kissing your ass and forgiving you. Like, you never. And that's what's funny is like, it's a good contrast to how everyone else is behaving, especially now. Kevin was the only other one that was really hesitant to be like Team Jay, but now he's gone. He's on SmackDown. And for all we know, he's going to be pissed at Jay now, because if it weren't for Jay being traded to Raw, he wouldn't have been traded to SmackDown. So I do like that we have Drew acting this way, because it seems more, and I've said this when we've talked about it, seems more real. It seems more authentic to me that, Sammy in this conversation keeps saying like, you need to just move on. You need to like forgive Jay. It's just you that cares, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, like, it makes sense why Drew feels this way. And the fact that you doesn't really make sense.
I'm so Sammy. I'm so Sami Zayn. Because, when someone crosses me, whatever, it's, I don't get real pissed at them. You just have an eyes in the back of your head at all times. And I'm a little bit more forgiving, so I relate in that sense.
Yeah.
And Drew, like when Drew's saying like he's done this, I'm saying to Drew I'm like, dude, what do you mean he's going out and defending Sammy? He's going I'm so like, dude, he's proven it. Like, he's with Cody Rhodes, the ultimate like, he's doing what he's supposed to.
But it's like what I said to you a couple times, like, I don't know if it was last week or the week before or something, where I said, when someone shows you who they are, you need to believe them. And it feels like Jay has already shown you time and time and time again. And the thing is it would be different if if we saw a genuine interaction, I think, between Jay and Drew, where Jay actually kind of just admitted to I was blinded by my loyalty to my family. I was manipulated. I was doing what I thought was the right thing. In hindsight, I realized I was wrong, and I really, messed up a lot of people's careers. I hurt a lot of people physically. I took opportunities. Like, if we saw that kind of interaction, then I think that, we would be a little bit more understanding. of Drew maybe forgiving him, but the fact that this conversation hasn't happened, it hasn't even really happened at all with Jay, which I told you I felt like was kind of problematic because he just kind of shows up and he's like, I'm not in the bloodline anymore, so I'm good. Like, you guys should love me. And it's like, that's not how it works.
That's not how this shit works.
Yeah, so I think if that was something that we saw between him and Drew, then maybe Drew wouldn't be in this situation. But I feel like there's a whole purpose to it, and that's why I feel like we might be seeing the start of maybe Drew winning.
This could be the start of something new.
Yes, and like I said, it also looked like he might have been setting up something with Sammy, because after Sammy's like, you just need to forgive him and move on, blah blah blah. Drew gets irritated, of course, and he reminds Sammy that he doesn't understand. Because, well, first of all, he was like, everyone's telling me they can relate to Drew McIntyre. And I was like, I know, babe. I know. They just don't understand you. They don't understand you. I get it, man. They can't relate. Okay.
I know, babe. I just the way you just said so casual.
I just get it. I get it. So he's like, you don't understand because you have never been world champion. You've never experienced the feeling of winning. You've never experienced the feeling of losing, especially at the hands of others. And then Sammy basically challenges him to be like, oh, I can show you that I am world heavyweight champion material. I challenge you to a match at Raw.
Felt that.
Drew accepts, and that is going to be lit.
It's going to be awesome. I really felt that line where Drew said that you've never been world champion, you don't know what it's like. I was like, oh, well, damn right he has.
And it's a weird situation too, because it's fine. I like I said, I like the contrast between, you know, Sammy's mindset in this situation and Drew's, because I feel like it does represent like the accurate feelings of real people if they were in a similar situation. But they both lost their opportunity to beat Roman Reigns in the same way because of the bloodline interfering. So it's like, even though Sammy can't relate on the level of being champion and then losing the championship, he can relate to being this close to winning and having it taken away from him because of people like Jay. And I feel like that's kind of what Drew is trying to get across to him. But Sammy is always in Sammy La La Land, you know, where like he doesn't want to hold a grudge. And it's like, Drew is just kind of letting him know, like, it's not really holding a grudge when there's a championship involved, especially for you who hasn't gotten many opportunities to become champion.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm intrigued, as I like to say. I'm intrigued. Oh my gosh, we have so much left. Okay.
I was just like, I looked at the time, we're like, it's 40 minutes. It's like, oh,
I know, but some of it's gonna go by fast, so it's fine. So after Imperium attacked DIY last week, they made it seem like Ciampa is not medically cleared, whatever the reason is. Maybe he really isn't. He looked like he was like legitimately hurt with his head. At least I don't know
if he might have tweaked his neck, and the neck is something that you don't fuck with at all.
Right. So I don't know.
Vintage, so
but we saw Johnny. Yeah, so we saw Johnny Gargano versus Ludwig Kaiser. And I felt like it was a good match. We saw Vinci get involved at one point by raking Johnny's eyes, which helped Kaiser get the win. But we saw more of the drama inside of Imperium because Kaiser didn't look too happy with Vinci, and I'm still very confused about what exactly they're doing with this. I don't know. So we see more of it unfold later after Gunther retains, which we'll get into. And he comes back and he congratulates Kaiser for getting the win and that he was like kind of impressed, you know. But he gives Vinci some shit for saying that he did not do a good enough job to get the whole thing done. And we finally hear my man speak some words, and he was like, but I helped him get the win. And Kaiser like rolls his eyes and is just kind of like, and I'm like, dude, he did help you get the win. He like was a distraction and like helped you take advantage, but whatever.
I want him on a stretcher. I want him stretched out of the arena.
So
like, dude.
Yeah. So Gunther says that it looks like Vinci is going to have a match with Gargano next week, and he says that the only way that they will like get the job done is if Vinci has Gargano taken out on a stretcher. So I didn't really appreciate Kaiser being like, good luck. Like he just is like, not believing in him. And I'm like, what is wrong with you guys? Why are you being so mean to him? Why are you being mean to Vince? Why are
Everybody
you being mean to Jordan?
hates Gio.
No, but I don't get it. I just
I don't get
get
it
it.
either. That's like I would really love to sit here and tell you why and be the because apparently I do know everything here, but I don't. I this is one dynamic I really don't understand why they are having this inner turmoil
Mm-hmm.
because it's not like Vinci is losing matches upon matches every time.
Yeah.
He's and he's not even featured that much.
It's not
It's
like if
just
you
it's
compare him to
weird.
like another problem child of JD McDonough, who has kind of like
Oh, he's
cost them big
fucked the
matches.
Judgment Day.
That's what I'm saying. Like, well, he also helped them because he helped them win the titles. But I'm saying, like, but then he like messed up in really big moments. So it's like that would be more understandable if they had an issue with him because that's what Vinci was doing as well. But we don't really have much of an explanation about why there is this issue because, like, we get it. You love Kaiser and you want to push Kaiser. Okay. But, like, I don't know. I feel like, again, I could talk about this every week, so I'm not going to go on a rant about it, but it's
It's
just
just
very
weird.
confusing.
It's very weird, and now I'm even getting to the point where I'm like, because that really confused me. It was like, and what about you? What are
I
you
know. I'm
doing?
like, what was he
What,
supposed to do?
what he won? He caused a distraction. I
Yeah.
was very confused.
I know. I'm like, he wasn't even in the match. What do you mean? He could have cost Ludwig the match. He could have made it so that he got disqualified. Like, I'm like, what do you mean? Like, he could have done a lot worse,
A
but
lot worse.
I don't know. Then we move on to Becky Lynch. She meets up with Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae backstage, and Indy just jumps straight into it and is like, so when am I gonna get a title match for that NXT women's title that I never lost before I was called up to Raw? And Becky's like, oh, I'm actually gonna go talk to Adam Pearce right now and make it official. So we do find out that Becky versus Indy for the NXT Women's Championship is happening on Raw next week, which is exciting. But then
That's
we get
odd.
another tease of Becky versus Rhea because as Becky is about to walk away from Indy and presumably go and talk to Adam Pearce, we get a little bit of a stare down between the NXT Women's Champion and the Women's World Champion. So this is like the fourth time, fifth time, sixth time that they've teased this match over the years. And people think that this might mean that it's going to happen at Mania. What do you think?
It just seems right to do it at Mania.
Mm.
Um,
I feel like it also depends on where Jade is. I feel like we're
See,
kind of forgetting.
I think Jade would face Charlotte at Mania, and we got that tease on SmackDown.
I can only get on board with that if
If it's
Charlotte
not for,
loses.
if it's not for, I thought you were gonna say if it's not for a title.
Not for a title and Jade wins. That's
Oh, Jade has to win. You need Charlotte doesn't need to win there,
no.
and if she doesn't win, you can even extend it into a trilogy of matches where she'll win the second, and then she gets a win over Jade, but you need to put Jade over strong.
There's
That's the only
also
thing.
Bianca.
That's what I'm saying. Like
Jade
that's
versus Bianca.
why that's what I'm saying. Like this match of Rhea and Becky needs to happen at a Royal Rumble maybe to start to get the feud going. Judgment Day may get involved. We see Dom getting involved and a DQ whatever, and then it extends into Mania with we'll say Dom being banned from ringside, or it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter if he's at ringside or not because it's a false count anywhere, no DQ, whatever. This match is too big to put on any pay-per-view other than a big four. And if you look at the big four that are happening in the upcoming future, War Games, those two are going to have their own thing. Rhea's going to be involved in either a War Games match or a title match. Becky, same thing. Royal Rumble makes sense because you need to have at least them in a title match of some sorts. And the Royal Rumble, you can do a non-finish or a false fit, whatever the term is, to extend it into another match. This just has so much of a big match feel to it that it only makes sense to do it at Mania. And it'd be a good match to main event night one,
Mm.
especially after last year where you had no women's matches main event because of the bloodline taking over. And the only match that really makes sense out of the bloodline peeps to main event would be Roman night two.
Well, and again, one, it's going to depend on how long they have Becky as NXT Women's Champion, and two, I think as far as WrestleMania goes, like if a women's match main events, I feel like Becky versus Rhea would be a tricky one to compete with, like Jade versus Charlotte or Jade versus Bianca. Like I don't know that Rhea versus Becky would be a front runner, just because it depends on how the stories develop,
Correct.
and like they know if they have Jade like be in a main event at WrestleMania, at her first WrestleMania, that's going to be such a big fu to AEW. So it's like there's that added aspect. Yeah, imagine her face fucking everywhere, dude. Tony Khan would be like kicking himself. But
Main event night one of a buy one get one free.
it's just like, yeah. So there's a lot of things, but I do think they've teased it enough. We need to see it at some point.
Oh, we absolutely need to see it. So,
and then we do see Xia Li run
my
into
girl.
Becky.
I love Xia Li.
So
I'm a huge fan of Xia Li.
She complains to Becky about Becky basically ducking her, and Becky's like, well, I will fight you. And then we get Lee being like, girl, yeah, we're gonna fight, but when I want to. And I was like, queen, this is what I like. I like to get that more, like that part, like we loved that about Nakamura. It's like such a mind fuck for the champion, because it's like you should be thankful that they're even accepting your challenge, and the fact that you're then like, no, you're just gonna have to wait until I feel like it. Like I just love that, and the fact that it's happening in the women's division, I'm very excited.
And Xia Li is solid. The problem is that there's no room at the moment, and it's a nice little dynamic too, because everyone is in line at this point. I mean, I even think Candice LeRae probably had a little thought there that, all right, well, if Indy loses, Becky, I want a shot. And then you have even Tegan Knox saying that she wants another shot at it. You have Valkyria, tomato potato. You have her wanting it. So you have a lot of women right now that we're not getting these opportunities on television, and Becky Lynch is giving it to them. So that's the only reason I want to see Becky have a long run and reign with this title. It's not because I want to see Becky be a dominant champion. I just want to see Becky Lynch square up against these female wrestlers that no one else would know except for, us and the other diehards out there.
Well, and I think there's some people who are having an issue with her winning, and I'm like, but that doesn't matter, because like, when's the last time that we saw Xia Li on TV? When's the last time we saw Tegan Knox on TV? Like, there's a reason why this is happening, and she's doing double duty. You gotta respect Becky. She wrestled last week against Tegan with 12 stitches in her arm. Like she's still
the grossest fucking.
I know.
That was still gross as hell.
I know. So I am here for it. And then we see Rhea Ripley versus Shayna Baszler, which, it was an okay match, I guess. Rhea does remind everyone before the match that it is her division. I was like, yes, it is. The match was fine, but it ends in a DQ, essentially, or a no contest, just like it has been over the last several weeks, because Raquel can't stay backstage, Nia can't stay backstage, and Zoe can't stay backstage. So they just go in and they start attacking everybody. And that ends up leading to Rhea meeting with Adam Pearce backstage. And she's like, we need to get this figured out. Like, what is going on? They need to stop interfering in my matches. And that is when Pearce is like, oh, by the way, you're going to have to face them all at Crown Jewel. So it's going to be Rhea Ripley versus Raquel Rodriguez versus Nia Jax versus Shayna Baszler versus Zoe Stark for the Women's World Championship. And I'm stoked about that. I just hope Rhea wins.
You can't have her lose. I'm sorry, you can't.
It's like what we've been saying, where someone was trying to argue with me on Twitter, and when I said that Jade has to go to Raw, because the main event scene in the women's division on Raw is not the same as it is on SmackDown. And this person was literally arguing with me saying that Raw is not stacked and that it's pretty even and all this. And I was like, there's literally two girls that you would consider main event on Raw, and that is Rhea and Becky. There's really no other like full-blown main eventers, top of the card girls. And then you look at SmackDown, it's Bayley, it's Charlotte, it's Bianca, it's Asuka, it's, you know, Io Sky. Like, are you really saying that that's equivalent? There's a reason why Rhea had a title match with Natalya. Like, stop. You know, like there's a reason for that. And it's like people that don't understand that is just ridiculous, because I'm not shitting on the other women. I'm not saying that I'm unhappy that so many of them are being featured on Raw over the last few weeks. I'm ecstatic about that. But there's a reason why Tegan Nox isn't going after Rhea for the title. There's a reason why the After Party is not doing it, or Nikki Cross. Like, there's a reason for that. And to act like that's not legit or that that's not happening is like, I think it's just disingenuous, honestly.
So there's a comment here that I think can spark a bigger conversation. I gotta find it though. I don't know why I can't find it. Here it is, Micah. Oh. Here it is. Yes. They need to make a mid-card women's title, and we've now
been saying that.
Yeah. The mid-card women's title is the NXT title.
Yeah, on Raw.
Raw.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah. And maybe this may be me being the ultimate what's the word I'm looking for? Optimist, the ultimate optimist. Thank you, Pitts. Is that this is an experiment. This is an experiment for potentially having women's mid-card titles. Mm-hmm. The NXT is the mid-card of WWE. Mm-hmm. So their best person is going to be the top of the mid-card. Mm-hmm. And if you have Becky Lynch doing it, she's elevating the talent, which is what you do with the mid-card. Mm-hmm. And let's be real here. It takes a lot of time not only to make a title physically, but also it takes a lot of time to legitimize that title as well.
Especially when it's not one that's existed before.
Exactly. So if you have like a women's international or intercontinental or whatever there, it's just like, cool, it's a title. It's like having the women's tag team titles at first. Like, cool, they have them, but what's the point other than just putting belts on people? Mm-hmm. So with the NXT title right now, it's really just an experiment for it, and who better to lead that experiment than the man herself, because she's going to do whatever possible to elevate that and make the division into something that can have mid-card titles just like the men's.
Mm-hmm. I agree. But I want to get back to Rhea really quickly.
Absolutely.
I want to get back to the Fatal 5-Way.
She's not like most girls.
Why I think Rhea needs to win, other than the fact that it's Rhea Ripley, is because of her not having a lot of legitimate opponents since becoming champion at WrestleMania. You know, no one really thought Natalya was going to win. No one thought that Zelina Vega was going to win. No one thought whoever else she's been against. I couldn't even tell you. Well, Raquel Rodriguez was close, but you kind of knew that she wasn't really at a point.
That was her most legit.
Yeah, but she really wasn't even at a point. Like, physically, she was the closest. But as far as, like, being over and, like, worthy of taking the title off of Rhea Ripley, she wasn't quite there. So I feel like this is the perfect way for Rhea to solidify herself as the queen bee in the division and to legitimize herself to those who think that she's had an easy title run. If she beats 4 other women for that title, I feel like you kind of can't argue that. And it's the best case scenario right now, because then there are 4 other women who will be competing to try and be the number 1 contender, to get a rematch, to do whatever. And that is just like a win-win situation for everybody, I feel like.
Oh, yeah. And no one else really I want to see his women's champion right now.
No.
No.
Then moving on to Bronson
Speaking of mid-card titles.
Yeah, mid-card.
Oh, sorry, I forgot. This is your world heavyweight champion.
Yeah.
I'm
This
sorry.
was also his 75th title defense.
Roman Reigns could never.
75th. Yeah, no, he's done half of that. I believe from when the last I saw the numbers, I think he's done about half of 75. It's been like, yeah, it was like 38 or something like that. So literally, and like 3 times the amount of time he's done
Orange
about half
Cassidy's
that.
putting up more title matches than
It's just
fucking Roman
crazy.
Reigns. But yeah, back to Gunther.
And so this match, you knew it was going to be a banger. Okay, it was so good. Has Gunther ever had a bad match? That's my question. I had someone on Twitter kind of go, that I saw was having an interaction with someone that we mutually follow, and I had to insert myself into it because I was literally shook. He was saying that he has never seen a match by Gunther that wasn't boring. And he said that all he does is chop, and that's it. And I almost had an aneurysm reading that.
That's professional wrestling.
Yeah.
People.
So I was like, well,
Okay.
to me,
That's wrestling.
yeah.
It's just
So
a
I
lot
was,
of chops. It's just a lot of chops.
so I'm
Okay.
like one part. That's like one
Hold on.
aspect of his wrestling, and it's very what.
I have a clip. I know you're not done. This is leading into your point. I'm setting you up. I'm throwing it an alley-oop.
Big meaty man slapping meat.
Yes.
This is. There you go. Go.
So the chops obviously is just one aspect. It's very old school because they used to use it all the time. They just don't do it. But it's like when it's one of your strengths and it's becoming one of your signature moves, it would be like telling Cody Rhodes to stop using the Cody cutter, or like the crossroads. Like, come on now. Like, it's not his finisher, but it's like the same thing that you become so accustomed to seeing. And I'm like, last night proved to you that Gunther can do literally anything. He was flying off the top rope.
Did you see that superplex?
I know.
I thought the ring was going to implode.
And that's the thing too. I think, I could sit here and talk about Gunther being incredible all day long, but then we also are a fan of Bronson Reed on the show, and I feel like that's kind of going under the radar a bit. I feel like he's not really getting his flowers for how really good he is. Like, I remember I was sitting there watching that match, and I said to my sister, I was like, this is the dude that was fired 2 times by Vince McMahon. Can you please explain to me, like, why that ever happened when he's hanging in there with Gunther? Like, please tell me this man has done nothing to justify being fired. He's so good in the ring. It's like what we say about like Ivar. It's very similar. It's like these are big men, but they perform and they do well. And he hung in there and looked like the complete ultimate contender for the IC title. I don't think that there was anybody who would be arguing that. I think the main question now is, do you think they get a rematch?
I could see this. Okay. I could see a rematch because of how good this match was. So
Yeah.
they saw this match and went, oh, this is a pay-per-view caliber match. Why not put it on one? So you probably, obviously, it's not going to be a crown jewel because the Intercontinental title does just not get.
Yep. We'll get there in a second.
But, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it needs to be defended on a pay-per-view. And this would be, in my opinion, Gunther's last successful title defense. Like, this is, he beats Bronson Reed and he goes,
how dare you?
Okay, well, Chad Gable needs to win. All right.
Yeah, not right now. Sorry.
So have him beat Bronson Reed now, which he did. Go have Ciampa, even Johnny Gargano, maybe a triple threat, whatever. Have Bronson Reed win some number 1 contenders at Survivor Series. They face off. And then he beats him. They put on a 5-star match. And then Gable comes in. So you can really extend this. You don't need to have back-to-back title matches with guys like this because there's no real feud here. There wasn't a feud.
Yeah. No, I get it.
So now you hype up the match between Bronson and Gunther, give it some substance with a feud, and then have Gunther win. It's like, oh, geez, he's beating everybody. And then you see Gable come out of nowhere, and it's like, I have been training for this. And that's when you do it. And I'm not putting a timetable on that because there shouldn't be right now. Let's let this still dominate. Let's this title reign still dominate. But Bronson Reed needs to be, I would say, the last stop on this dominant reign. And they showed last night that they could do it on a pay-per-view. It's kind of my point.
I think that is kind of ridiculous that they're going to have a third pay-per-view in a row without having the Intercontinental title on it. I'm really peeved about that. I don't understand that. I don't have to get into the conversation again. Why am I mad?
No. I know why you're mad. It's pretty obvious. I'm saying why, like, I'm agreeing with you. Like, it's one thing if it was, a Dominic champion. He's just having it because you need to put a belt on him. This is Gunther. I mean, this dude can hang with anybody.
That's what I'm confused about. I just don't really understand. And I mean, I just feel like it deserves to be defended on a pay-per-view. Because it is a little bit more equivalent to Roman's championship on Raw. And so, again, like I said, it feels like it's not as important when it keeps being defended on Raw, but I'm just going to keep complaining every single week. So I guess I should just move on.
Let it out. Let your frustrations out in the yard streams. That's why we do it.
So 2 quick little moments here. We saw Jade Cargill. She was on Raw and she met Becky Lynch, which I like that they were doing that because we saw that she ran into Charlotte when she was on SmackDown and they teased that. So I'm glad that they're also teasing, a potential rivalry with Becky on Raw. But the thing that caught most people's attention was when Pierce said that she was going to have to trade in her fur shrug for a red one. And I'm like, so does that confirm that she's going to Raw?
I believe so. That's how I took it.
I feel like she has to go to Raw. Come on. Let her establish herself on Raw, and then she can go to SmackDown. But this is what I mean. There's just so many big names in the women's division on SmackDown already. As I said, there's Charlotte, there's Bayley, there's Bianca, there's Asuka, there's Io. And then you go to Raw, and it's Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch. No disrespect to the other girls, but Nia's not up there.
She's not like most girls.
Raquel isn't up there. Zoe isn't up there. Shayna's not up there. They're not on the same level. I'm not saying that they're not capable because that's another
thing star power. They don't have the star power.
Exactly. Yet. They wouldn't main event a WrestleMania. You know what I mean? All these other girls could, and I feel like you need to have Jade over there. The problem, of course, is that who would she then feud with? I think that would be the one reason why they would have her go on SmackDown because there's more people there. But like I said, I think she should just be a free agent. I think that's the easiest way to solve all the issues.
Did you notice the difference in interactions that Jade had with Charlotte and Becky?
It seemed more hostile with Charlotte than Becky. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, hostile. It felt like one. You got something cooking.
Okay, we saw Triple H, come in and be like, Charlotte, here's Jade. I feel like that was like Triple H's way of being like, this is my new queen. Bye, Charlotte. Goodbye. That was because we know Triple H is other than Ric Flair, because he literally helped produce her. Triple H is the biggest fan of Charlotte ever. That's why partially why Charlotte is in the position that she is, where she can't do anything wrong and she's always champion. I feel like this, fresh blood. Here you go. Triple H is on board to be this is my new Charlotte. Jade is my new Charlotte. And that's kind of what I was like, oh, Charlotte's going to be pissed, because Charlotte is getting to a point in her career where she should be putting other people over and stop being in business for herself. And so I would like to believe that was kind of more what it is. Because that interaction with Becky and Jade was not at all
it was that. And Jade, that's, to me, it felt like Jade wanted that reaction out of Becky too, where it's like, oh, you're in my territory. You're and that jealousy. Fearful. Yeah. And Becky just get in line. Let's ride.
She's like, I'm not intimidated, honey.
Let's go. Get in line. I'll face you right now. Let's go.
Yeah.
And Jade's like, oh, she's a funny girl, isn't she?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not. It's the funnies in oh, she's not afraid of me.
Yeah.
She's not afraid that a storm is coming.
Mm-hmm.
She's embracing the storm. She's got a rain jacket on, her umbrella, her boots. Mm-hmm. She's ready to brave the storm.
Yeah.
Like that comparison? Nice.
Yeah. And then we saw Alpha Academy have a viral segment with Akira Tozawa. And the only reason I wanted to mention it was because of Akira Tozawa. And also we saw they were working out. Gable is still having Otis chop him to prepare for Gunther. But then they also bring up the fact they want to go after the tag team titles, which makes more sense now that we have new tag team champions. But it also feels like, yeah, they might be briefly moving on Gable from Gunther, which I'm here for.
Need to let it breathe.
Yes, just like kind of like still keep it relevant enough, with the chops, whatever, like make people remember that that's his ultimate goal. So I like that they're gonna maybe be exploring something else. And then we also see Indus Shear, and they are coming back right in time for Crown Jewel, baby.
Of course.
Yeah.
Indus Shear is unreal. I love a dominant tag team like that. No nonsense, strictly business. A lot of tag teams right now, I mean, even Judgment Day's got a little bit of flair to them, where they got the personality and whatnot. Where Indus Shear is like, we want to kick ass, and that's it. And we don't have that really in the tag division. And they could be, a different form of the Viking Raiders, like a branch off of that. You see what I'm saying? Because I kind of feel like,
I wonder if we're going to see them more now because they were gone for so long. I wonder if it was like a product of Vince. Like maybe Vince didn't like them and that's why they were off TV. I don't know. But I would like to think that if they're going to be back on TV, that it's not just because they're going to like the Middle East, basically. And they're like pandering, because it's like, come on, guys, like they're good enough to not have to only be here because of where the location of the pay-per-view is. I would like to think that we're going to see them more, but we shall see. Time will tell. And then finally,
I love that.
They were
dance.
like,
I'm
Tozawa, that is sick. Like
Tozawa's got the hips.
It's like, calm down.
I might try to do that in a TikTok trend, but I don't know what song to do it to. That's kind of that's the only thing stopping me.
So
give me some song suggestions in the comments, please, and I'll do it. I just need a song suggestion.
So we move on to the main event, which was Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso versus the Judgment Day, Damian Priest and Finn Balor for the tag team championships. And what a match, man. Just what a match. Okay. Again, I'm not thrilled that it's another main event that has like the same people in it. But I still think that it says a lot about how they feel about Judgment Day. The fact that they're like in every single main event, every single Raw. I don't know if people realize how much that probably indicates how they feel about them. So that I loved. We did see involvement in favor of Judgment Day with Dom, but also in favor of Cody and Jay because Sammy did come out. But where is JD McDonough? Where is he?
He's on timeout.
It's just mean.
I mean, Damian kind of almost killed him.
I know, but then he said he felt bad. So I was like, oh, my kid.
That's good.
He has a heart.
That's nice, though, that it's like, I feel bad. It's like, oh,
yeah,
character arc.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I don't know.
We'll get to this, Mr. Anderson. There was a big point.
Oh, Mr. Anderson.
We'll get there. So this was so unexpected. I really did not think that this was going to happen, but I love it. So we have Jimmy Uso come out of nowhere, and he goes after his own brother, attacks him out of nowhere, which Finn is then able to capitalize, hits a coup de grace, and my boys are two-time undisputed WWE Tag Team Champions. And I was legitimately shocked. Like I said at the beginning, I called you because I was just like, I felt
so bad.
I felt
I say I felt so bad in the sense where your level was here. You were so excited.
You have to remember it was only 8 p.m. for me.
I know you lucky bastard.
So that's why I'm like, it's not 11 p.m. where I'm like, it's like, no, I was like, it's 8, I'm alive.
It's 8 o'clock. Let's get weird.
Yeah.
And my reaction, I mean, you called me in the middle of my mouth being on the floor because I don't want to be that guy, but I did kind of see Judgment Day winning. I
did not.
I saw it in the sense that there's no reason. to have them as tag team champions. You can still have them be buddy with all yeet. And do you feel me? Like, Jackie,
did you see the person who had that sign last week?
Oh,
they
it was
had
awesome.
a sign last week. Do you feel him, sir? That was a sign.
When Cody looked at Jackie and went, no, Jackie, do you feel him?
Yeah.
She did not see that coming. I was like, I feel Usi. She was throwing a trigger word out there to just steer it over. But you can still have all that without them having the tag team titles. So that's where my mind went. But it's the fact that Jimmy Uso out of nowhere. See, that's where I thought JD was going to come in. You think JD, so that's where my mind went. Like, all right, well, they're going to win. Who's going to be the interference?
Yeah.
And when you see Jimmy kick him, I mouth on the floor because now the story is evolving. You know, we're connecting here. Judgment Day, Bloodline, Cody, like all the stories are intertwining now. And this was such a nice way to kick that off as a catalyst that it legitimately flooded my head with thoughts like, oh, they're doing it. They're doing it the right way. This is not being done lazy. And we may legitimately be in the third inning. At this point, we're probably in the bottom of the fifth, heading into the sixth. Well, it's unreal. It's awesome.
Even though they were only champions for 10 days, we did see them defend the titles twice because they did it on SmackDown and then on Raw. We saw the interaction between Cody and Roman on stare down on SmackDown, so that sets up WrestleMania 40. All of this sets up War Games, Judgment Day, Bloodline, Cody, Sammy, whoever else, Jay. It also sets up Jay versus Jimmy, which I was gonna say. It looks like we're getting probably Jimmy versus Jay. Most people are assuming at WrestleMania 40. Can you imagine? Like, I wasn't really on board with it, but I'm a little more on board with it now.
Welcome. Thank you. Finally.
But then we also could see, like I said earlier, Sammy versus Jay, Sammy versus Cody. Like, there's so many different ways that this can go. And I think it's people who were under the mistaken impression that Cody and Jay were meant to have the titles for a long time. It served a purpose. It was basically to be like, see, Jay can be trusted. And then it was a way to get Cody on SmackDown without fully trading him to SmackDown so that he could have this interaction with Roman and, make us not forget about that. It sets up Jay versus Jimmy, which is something that they've dreamt about doing for their entire careers. That is something that could happen at WrestleMania. There's just a lot that comes of this. And it's like, it doesn't really take anything away from Cody and Jay being tag champions, but the tag team titles mean more being held by Judgment Day. So I understand, like, I'm a big Cody fan, so it's not like I don't care what happens with Cody, but like, I am a big fan of the heels. So like, I know that a lot of people don't agree with me in that aspect because I was like celebrating the fact that Judgment Day won.
You were celebrating it like I would be celebrating a Kevin Owens or
I think it was
Bray Wyatt.
I was so legitimately shocked. I really did not see that coming, and I think that's why I was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe this." And I think that's why it was also a really good move, because I don't know that a lot of people expected Cody and Jay's run to end so abruptly. But there's just so many layers, and like we've said, the Judgment Day is basically the equivalent to the Bloodline to a smaller degree on Raw as the Bloodline on SmackDown. So it's like everything is intermingled. So it had to happen. And Jimmy versus Jay is going to be a banger. So and Mr. Anderson does bring up, but did Roman tell Jimmy? Sorry,
I'm dealing with this.
I think we're gonna find out possibly on SmackDown, but I don't really see Roman having that big of an issue with it.
Nope, Sarah. This is what I'm saying, where you really have to start paying attention to the show, to everybody, because if you remember the Judgment Day backstage segment where Damian and Finn are like, let's go kick Drew's ass. Like, we're going to make a statement on the season premiere of Monday Night Raw.
Was on the phone.
And Rhea comes in and Damian's like, where were you? And she's like, I was on the phone.
Yeah.
And he's like, what? She's like, I'm handling Judgment Day business.
Mm-hmm.
Rhea is pulling the strings.
So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying even if Roman didn't tell him, I don't think he's going to be mad about it because at the end of the day, it screws over Jay. But Roman did say Jay's irrelevant. We don't care. Like, we don't need to think about him, whatever. So I could see in that aspect him being like, why are you going to Raw and cost him the titles? Like, why do you care about what he's doing? But I feel like, again, it all just makes the story.
But he said on SmackDown, he said that you're going to let your brother tag with Cody Rhodes. He has your undisputed tag team championships with Cody Rhodes. So there's that other element to it.
Yeah,
this is why I love the product right now. And it is what John Cena said, the greatest of all time, literally said this, that we are in a golden age of wrestling because this is not just sports entertainment now. This is legit television. You're getting this type of storytelling in like HBO, AMC type shows. You're getting that now in wrestling and then having it culminate in matches where, I mean, at this point, I would say we're in the best era of actual wrestling, in-ring stuff. So you're combining that, like it's so good that you need to pay attention. And the fact that they even had Seth tease the Drew thing, maybe Drew's even involved in this a little bit. Like you have to start really looking at the minor details here with everything because it all is adding up to a bigger payoff.
I agree.
It's so great. And like I got NXT on right now. Okay, it's because we've been real over, but that's what happens when you have a lot to talk about. And NXT is even incredible with their storytelling and character development, elevating talent. I can't goo goo gaga over it any more than I already am. It's just so great.
Yep.
So great.
I agree.
Oh,
so that was Raw.
So excited for WrestleMania, Sarah. I really hope that WrestleMania, not only that we have the time of our lives and all that, but I really hope that we get to interact with a lot of peeps, and not only just our peeps here, but the other peeps in the wrestling world, down there, because I really believe I have a really feeling from above, we'll say, that WrestleMania 40 is going to really be a historic shift in the product for the better. And I'm so
exciting times.
Oh, I'm out of breath talking because it's I feel like a little kid that is explaining to their parents something. You're like, and this happened, and
no,
then,
it's like why you need a puppy for Christmas. That's like what it is.
Oh my god, it's so good. And I'm so happy that I can come in here and talk about it, not only with you but the peeps in the comment section. Because I mean, Dickie Pitts, I don't know how much he can take. The man knows nothing. Maybe I should have him watch like a match. And let me know. Let's know in the comments below if you'd like to see my 69-year-old dad watch wrestling for the first time.
Gunther versus Sheamus versus Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania 39.
That's what I should have him watch.
Yeah.
All right, I'll show him clips. I might turn that into content. He's more into being more a part of it than my mom is. Because when she comes down here in the cave to do laundry or whatnot, she looks at me like I have 5 heads here with the old championship, which we definitely, this needs to be upgraded before we go to Mania. I don't know how it's gonna happen, but it's gotta. All right, I'm done.
All right.
I'm done with my ranting. I'm so excited. Oh, I'm so excited. And I'm thank you to everyone in the comments. I know we didn't get a lot of comments today, but we had a lot to talk about. And as you can see, we're very over, but for a good reason. So, thank you once again. And hit that subscribe button if you are newly joined in and you just tuned in. Because I shared it on a page or Sarah's page, whatever. Hit that subscribe button and bell notification to know when we go live. And if this is your first time, welcome. Also, check out the archives, not only just of our old live streams, but of all clips of different topics that we talk about. Sarah cut them up. And I think at this point we have over like 700 something videos.
900.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I was go. Oh, fuck. We're at a little under 400 watch hours before
335.
335 watch hours before we can be monetized for this. And once that shit happens, oh boy, howdy, we can give you even more content and more, stick content like that. The NWF, I'm not kidding. I would love to get this pay-per-view going, but it's just been swamped not only with this wrestling, but we got football going on. Thank God I have my Motor City Kitties, because boy howdy do the Patriots fucking suck. So I talked about that last night, and that was just more doom and gloom. Now we talk about this stuff. So and it's a lot more fun.
Yeah.
So go check us out. Social media links are obviously in the ticker below and in the description below. We'll be back on Thursday for another episode. Don't really know what that's in store. We have a couple ideas. That's why you got to follow us on social media to be in the loop. And if you are a football fan and like actual good football instead of the terrible football the Patriots have been putting on, twitch.tv/Nonsense Sports Network tomorrow around 5:30 p.m. I go live with the Militia. So go check that out. Sarah, I know you got your Patriots content over at the place where they fire muskets, musketfire.com. So go check that out. And we'll be back on Thursday. Thank you guys for tuning in, and God bless. Remember that you can do it. All you got to do is try. We will see you on Thursday.